Welcome to another episode of Board Progression. Today we are reviewing the ski resort Solitude Mountain here in Utah. You guys have requested me to do some reviews of the resorts here that I've ridden. I'm going to be reviewing 13 resorts total, so stay tuned for videos on every resort that I've ridden, and then there's going to be a final video ranking the top 10 resorts. Now this will basically be my opinion of these resorts and how they cater to my style of riding, what I like, etc. I tried to be a little bit non-biased, but there are resorts here in Utah that don't allow snowboarding, and I am a snowboarder, so that is going to affect their score most likely. Now up front, I want to be very clear. I love each and every resort in Utah that I've ridden. There is no such thing as a bad resort here. So if there's a higher scoring resort and a lower scoring resort, it just means that one barely squeaked out higher than the other in the stats. Now for the reviews of each resort, I've broken things up into 7 categories. Each category is going to score a 1 through 10, and then we're going to add up the totals at the very end, and that'll give a total score overall for the resort. The first category is terrain and snow quality. When I say snow quality, I mean natural snowfall for this category speaking, because Utah is known for its snow. The second category is length of season. That's important to me. The third category is lifts, amenities, and terrain accessibility, meaning how good are the lifts, how many of them are, how's the lodge, and how's the accessibility of getting to the terrain that you want to from the lifts. The next category is going to be trail difficulty and variety. For me, I want a challenge. I want resorts that have a little bit more advanced stuff, and I also want something that's well-rounded. Maybe some trees, maybe some cliffs. A terrain park would be nice. The next category is going to be crowds and travel time from Salt Lake City Valley. Pretty much the center of the valley I picked as a good central hub for travel. So you guys know what it's like to be at a busy resort, and hopefully you know what it's like to be at an empty resort, and then how much time it takes to get to the resort. The next category I'm just going to call customer service. It's basically how is the resort treating its guests, especially the locals. Is it communicating well with them on social media? Does it listen to feedback? Are they adding fees, paid parking, stuff like that. The final category is something a little bit less tangible. It's the overall vibe of the resort. It's how you feel after riding there for a day. How do you feel about your interactions with people in the chairlift? How do you feel about the employees? Do you feel welcomed? Do you feel shunned? The overall vibe is probably the most important thing at a resort, I would say. Now with a name like Solitude, as you can imagine, it used to be a very uncrowded resort. It lived up to the name Solitude. Things have changed a little bit with the addition of the Icon Pass. It's now an unlimited Icon hub here in Utah. You get unlimited riding there. I think with the base you get some blackout dates, but that could be a pro or a con depending on who you are. According to Solitude's website, they have 1,200 skiable acres of terrain, a peak elevation of 10,488 feet, 2,494 feet vertical. They average about 500 inches of snow per year, but last season they got a total of 816 inches. If you're interested in day passes, they range from about $95 a day to $150 a day, depending on what day you go and how early in advance you buy your tickets. Now we're gonna get into the scoring categories I mentioned before. The first up is snow quality and terrain. I'm giving them a 7 out of 10 in this category. They have excellent snow, but it's not quite as good as the other places in the Cottonwoods because it's a little bit lower elevation. So especially lower mountain, it can be a little bit more dense and wet and not last quite as long and stay as fluffy as other parts. But they do have very good terrain, some steeps, but it is a little bit limited with how you can get to them. Some of the terrain that you have to get to that's more aggressive, a little bit more gnarly, you have to hike for, like Fantasy Ridge, for example. And areas like Honeycomb, which are really fun, are subject to a lot of avalanche mitigation, which may or may not even open on a POW day. The next category is gonna be length of season, and I'm giving Solitude an 8 out of 10. It's pretty respectable. This year they are scheduled to open on November 17th, conditions permitting. And last season they made it all the way to May 21st, I believe, being open daily, which is pretty impressive. A lot of resorts will cut back to weekends for the last few weeks that they're open, but Solitude stayed open daily for quite a long time. Next up is lifts, amenities, and terrain accessibility. We're giving them an 8 out of 10. They have 8 chairlifts, 4 of them are high speed, and on a busy day, especially a powder day, it's pretty easy to get around the mountain as long as things open pretty quickly. And they tend to open pretty quickly at Solitude, other than Honeycomb, which we kind of mentioned earlier. And to get to Fantasy Ridge, it's quite the boot pack. It's pretty difficult. In fact, it's downright gnarly. There are some flat spots, which snowboarding kind of sucks, unfortunately, especially coming back from the summit chair. That's kind of why we didn't score it higher than an 8, but 8 is still pretty good. And as far as amenities go, the lodging is pretty nice. It's fairly modern. Next up, we have trail variety and difficulty. We're giving them a 7.5 out of 10. I'd say overall, they're pretty good variety. They've got some beginner areas, a lot of intermediate, and some pretty expert, gnarly stuff too. They claim their mountain is about 50% advanced, 40% intermediate, and 10% beginner, and I'd say that's pretty fair. They do have a terrain park, but it's pretty bare bones. They just started doing it recently with the last couple seasons. It's pretty small and pretty basic, but it's there if you want it. So they have kind of everything. Next up is crowds and travel time. This one's not the best. We're gonna have to go with 3.5 out of 10. Now things could be changing after this season. They are adding parking reservations this year, which could change things a little bit, but up until now, the red snake is kind of notorious here in Utah. On a non-busy day, travel time from the center of Salt Lake Valley is about 25 minutes. But on a busy holiday weekend, POW day, it could be several hours to get up to the canyon. And even then, you might not find a parking spot. If you're trying to take public transportation, the buses are also stuck in traffic. So hopefully this year things get better. Now, if you get up really early in the morning, you can kind of beat the crowds, and lines for the lifts don't get too bad if enough lifts are open, but parking is very, very limited there, which is probably why they say they're switching to the reservation system this year. We're almost done. Next category is customer service. We're giving them a 6 out of 10, which is better than average. They do have some fees like paid parking, but they incentivize carpooling, and it's free if you have 4 people in your car as of this season. And their social media presence is pretty good. They seem to respond pretty quickly and try to do a lot for the locals, especially when they kept the season very late with a lot of lifts open, running daily, when, as I mentioned, other resorts were cutting back staff, cutting back hours, cutting back days. And the final category is the vibe of the resort, how we feel after riding there. We're also gonna give this a 6 out of 10. It's not bad, it's better than average, but I'd say overall, it just kind of doesn't have a whole lot of personality. Where some resorts have a very distinctive feel and vibe, Solitude just feels kind of vanilla. It's not a bad thing, but it's pretty family friendly, and I just say that there's more destination and casual skiers and riders there versus hardcore locals. So that's all the categories. We are gonna add them up now and come up with a grand total of 46. Now, what does that mean? Well, I've decided basically there's gonna be a 5-star system, and anything from 40 through 49 is gonna be 4 stars out of 5. So we're giving Solitude 4 out of 5 stars, a very respectable review. I love this resort. As I said, I love pretty much every resort here in Utah. With that being said, please stay tuned for all the following reviews that are going to be coming out. Subscribe and maybe hit that bell so you don't miss any of them. I want to thank all the subscribers out there who gave me feedback and asked for these types of videos. That's why we're doing them right now, so I hope you guys like them. Drop a comment below what you think. If you want to see more footage from Solitude, I've attached links to videos that I've shot in the past at Solitude. I want to give a special thank you to all the Patreon members out there. You guys are making this thing possible. Also, a big thank you to anybody who's bought stickers or Board Progression merchandise like this awesome hoodie or the Keep Progressing hats. If you want to help support Board Progression, there's a link to that in the description below as well. And if you're a Patreon member, you get 15% off everything in the merchandise store. That's going to do it for this one. Keep progressing in anything and everything that you're doing. Thank you for watching. Pray for snow. Utah resorts will be opening very soon. I love you guys. Thanks. Bye.